Were you a milkman?
I was a milkman.
You've
done an awful lot of research, especially as a defender. If you make a mistake, it tends to end up in the back of the net, and that can affect everyone's weekend. And I used to take it home with me. There was no hiding that. And that was really down to a T, honestly. It was ridiculous.
Today's guest's footballing career lasted 20 years. He played in the Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur and Hull City, but bookended his career at the world-famous City ground. He came here as a 9-year-old and ended up being here for 8 years. He then moved over to Spurs, which resulted in captaincy, Champions League, a League Cup title, and a seat on the plane to the World Cup. He then had 4 years as a Tiger before finally coming home after 13 and a half years. He was labelled as Awesome Dawson and was also the star of Forest's bench cam. Now we get to see him regularly on our screens, this time as a pundit. Please welcome to the official Nottingham Forest podcast on and off the pitch, Michael Dawson.
Thank you, Rachel. That was very good.
Just about got there in the end.
I didn't like the player cam one, though. I'd have rather been on the pitch than being being a cheerleader.
But that gave us an insight into you as a person, which the fans absolutely loved. You must have seen that as well. And all the comments like, become a manager. When are you going to become a manager? Paul Hart saying he's managerial material. Surely, after seeing those comments as well, you kind of thought, is that a next step for me?
Well, I was enthusiastic. That was something I was. Yeah, I mean, look, I got involved in the game, wanted the lads to do well. I think as a manager, it's a little bit different. I was cheering them on, like I said, wanting them to do as well as they could. But standing on the touchline, being calm. Sabri Lamouchi at the time then was stood with his hands in his pockets, and I'd be stood next to him at times. And I actually remember Carragher saying to me, like we were on the coaching staff, Jamie Carragher said to me when he seen a clip of me and Sabri, I was fully kitted up, but I had my coat on just because I got involved, and I had a great relationship with Sabri. I wanted the lads to do well. Of course, I wanted to be playing, but it was in the latter stages of my career, and I knew the lads that were playing, and I was there to help them.
It almost seemed like you got everyone else as animated as well. You're the one up, out, pointing at everybody, and I think everyone else kind of probably watched and took notice even more because you were acting like you did there.
Well, I think we were striving for something. We were striving to be where the lads are now, and that's in the Premier League. We had a great togetherness that led, as I said, by Sabri. He was an amazing manager. The mental side of it, the physical side, knowing players' personal life, from your wives to your kids' names, all these kind of things. It just had everyone on the same wavelength and wanting to be successful. And we had that, and striving for success and getting for promotion. That's what we all wanted. Even the lads wanted to play. It ultimately comes down to wanting to play football matches. But at the end of the day, if we win, the manager's happy, we're happy, and we have a chance to get to the Premier League. But unfortunately, we came up a little bit short.
Manager in waiting is also happy. I'm obviously getting my iPad out just to remind you of bench cam as well, Dawes.
Oh, yeah, I have seen this one. Look at that. Yeah, my fan was coming out then. But that was me as an 8. Look at Yatesy there. Yeah, I mean, look at the Trent end. I used to sit in the Trent end as a young 8-9-year-old. It was a team I followed. Seeing the likes of Pierre Van Hooijdonk, Stuart Pearce, they were my idols. Steve Stone, Ian Wone. And then coming back, I couldn't have asked of a better way to call it a day, coming back to a place where it all started, and to be back today reminiscing about it. But I don't need to see myself doing that, Rachel, that's for sure.
Do you see yourself in the future? Obviously, we know you've had such a successful transition, and I want to chat about that as well, to what you're doing now, to being a pundit and, being on our screens every single weekend, which is so great to see. But you did go and get your qualifications while you were at Spurs. So was that in the back of your mind at some point, thinking about a move into kind of management or in the football club in that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought at 30, I thought of my next chapter and journey, what I was going to be. So I did my B licence when I was at Spurs with the academy there. John McDermott, who was the FA technical director now at the FA, who was fantastic for me. And then I went to Hull City. And then when I came back here, it was time to try and get my A licence finished, which I did literally as I hung my boots up. So it was always something that was in my mindset. But the media was another thing that I enjoyed doing, and it came down to opportunities. Well, I've got a young family. I've got an 8-year-old boy and a 3.5-year-old daughter, so they take up an awful lot of my time. And I realise my best friend's at Grimsby, who's assistant manager. My brother's assistant manager at Hull City. So I realised that the time that goes in to being a manager, a coach, your sacrifices away from your family, all these kind of things, that played into a part. And when the opportunity to come up with the media in Sky, I grabbed it with both hands, and I love that. So I get the best of both. I love talking about football. I love watching football, but I love being at home with my family as well. So I get to do the school runs as well as watch football on a Saturday, which I know as a coach. As a player, it's easy. You've got one person to look after, and that's yourself. To be on time, eat the right thing, sleep, prepare. When you cross the white line, perform. As a coach or a manager, you've got everyone to look after and try and perform and get the best out of it. And you've got sacrifices to make. It's not easy. It's hard work, and I'm enjoying the media. So at this moment in time, never say never though, Rachel.
I thought that was it. I thought you were about to say never, and that was what I was going to ask you.
No, never say never, because I love the game. I love chatting about it. And I loved coaching. When I was on the grass, I loved it. But it's not just that. You're not like a player where you train, you jump in the shower, you have some food, you have a massage, and you go home and you can switch off till the next day. As a coach, you never switch off. You
don't have a couple of kids either. You have a whole load of them as well.
You're right, yeah. And they'd be harder work than my two young ones, that's for sure.
But obviously, you said your brother up a Hull. What does he make of you? Does he think you possibly have managerial material in your blood? Considering it's in the family anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, you never know until you try it. Until you stood on the touchline as a manager or then as a coach. I think something... when I have been involved in a couple of games, as manager's been sacked, and I've took over at Hull with Mike Feeling for a game. We got beat heavily, and it's tough. You take it home. I did it with Simon here when Aitor left and we went to Reading and we lost, and you're trying to think what you could do better. And that was as a coach, never mind as a manager. So you must never switch off. So I don't know. I take my hat off to every manager, every coach, because as I say, it's hard work.
It'd be quite the story though, wouldn't it? Academy boy, 2 stints here, possibly.
Oh, Rachel, you're selling it now.
I'm selling it. I've got to. That's my job, Dawes. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about what I wanted to as well. The fact that you have made that successful move, but it wasn't without a lot of thought going into it, was it? You kind of thought early on, I'm going to make the transition to the media, and you put the hard work in early in your career.
I did, yeah, and it's probably something when I look back and tell you this story, when I came back, it all came about when I was at Hull City with David Prutton. Prutz used to cover the games. I played with Prutz here, and we were at Hull, and I said, Prutz, you're doing great in the media. How did it all happen? So it all fell about like that. I said, I'd love to give it a go. So we were in the Premier League at the time, and the producer at Sky then was a big Spurs fan. He'd spoke to
always helps.
Always helps to get your foot in the door. So I remember watching my first game. It was Swindon against Scunthorpe. It was the worst game of football ever. It was windy. It was probably a bit like my performance, to be honest, Rachel. If I'm truth be known, you're going out your comfort zone. You've gone from playing, and I'm still only young. I still hadn't thought of doing that. I just thought I'd give it a go, and they obviously seen something in me, and they kept inviting me back when it worked. And then when I came back here, I got injured, and I was doing quite a bit of it. And one of the stories was when I'd come back from an injury with Roy and Martin at the time. And I remember running out to training, and Martin's gone, what are you doing this week, Doss? So I've reeled it off that I was doing a Champions League game. He was like, no, you clown, what are you doing out on the training pitch? So whenever I see Roy now, he always brings up that story, and I said, well, I had to, because you were kicking me out the door in 12 months' time, so I had to think of my next opportunity. But all these things, which I can understand from the coaching point of view, players when they're coming to the latter stage of the career, they're thinking of planning the next journey of what they're going to do. And I was doing the same with my media, because unfortunately, you can't play forever, and it's something that I wish we could. Because I loved it every minute of being a footballer. I honestly, I would not have changed a thing. Well, I would, one thing, not being injured.
Yeah, you've spoken about that as well, haven't you? In fact, you hated that. But I was just going to go back to, you have to start somewhere. You said you possibly weren't that good. And I was trying to remember when I last saw Dawes, and I actually think it was Hull City. I must have been like 2015, probably.
Could have been, yeah.
2015 time. And again, when I started my job, I was pretty rubbish. And I took Dawes, he took me on a little wander around the dressing room. And it was on Fletch and Sav. Obviously, we know Fletch here, big Forest fan. It was kind of like, try and get as much as you can. And so I'm like, tell me about your socks. Like, what shoes are you wearing? But that's the kind you have to start somewhere, don't you?
Exactly, you do. And you've got to try it. And I think that's the thing as a career path you're going down. I've got friends who now are saying, like, do you enjoy it? Do you have as much fun as you look like you're having on a soccer Saturday? And Jeff and the gang are magnificent.
Remember Jeff's name, remember? You get that wrong sometimes.
Jeff and Jules, yeah. I mean, because I say Jeff every Saturday, you do midweek. But yeah, we have fun. It's a great show. And like I say, you get caught up in the emotions of the game and you're enthusiastic. And that's what it's all about. Fans want to hear what the game's like because they're not seeing it. Where luckily enough, we get to see it.
Do you get the same nerves that you had on match days?
No, I did when I first started. Yeah, this is my second full season doing it, and the more you do it, same as anything. You think, I think I get better. I'm not too sure. I let the audience decide that, but no, you do. You become a little bit more comfortable. However, when I played, I got nervous every game because when you cross that white line, you think, right, you don't want to let anyone down. One yourself, one your teammates, one the manager. And your fans, because especially as a defender, if you make a mistake, it tends to end up in the back of their net, and that can affect everyone's weekend. And I used to take it home with me. There was no hiding that.
Is there still that kind of sports person persona about you, though? When you do go home now from the studio, do you go, I'm going to analyse my performance? Do you look at it and go, oh, was I better than last week? Did I say... like eloquent sayings, do you have a look at that as a sports person? I don't actually watch it back because I hate watching myself and listening to myself. But I do know when I think I've had a good show, when things have not probably gone to plan. But they keep asking me back, so that's a good sign. I think if it keeps coming, I'm doing all right. We always, I guess, hear in the paper about players not knowing what they want to do afterwards and having that kind of point in their careers up when it's ended of being a bit lost. Did you ever have that? Was there ever that hole? And did you kind of see that with your family as well? Because it's not just you. Yeah. It's your family and your kids that go through this massive transition as well.
I think that's one of the reasons when you talk about going to the coaching of the media. When we left London, we moved back north. Living in Yorkshire, I travelled, then I rented a place here when we came back, and all these kind of things. When you have kids, they've had sacrifices. You've moved all around the country, away from your family, and all those kind of things determine that. But I think I was fortunate. I have missed it, but not as much as a lot of people miss it. I think I went out with COVID. When we had COVID and we missed out on the playoffs, and my last year I was here and wasn't really involved, which was hard. So I was sort of in the transition then, and the game wasn't taken away from me. I sort of made that decision where I see players who retire a lot younger than what I did through injury, and that would have hurt me. I'm very open. When I was injured, I was down. You always think you had to get back to fitness. You're in longer days. All these kind of things. It's not your life. You can't eat what you want. It was just a knock-on effect. I always got down. But when I retired, I knew that I'd give everything I could to my career, the sacrifices, and it was probably time that I was old and slower. And people say I was slow for a lot of my career, but that's their choice. But no, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I really, really wouldn't.
And is there anything you do now which you definitely couldn't have done when you were playing that you absolutely love, which you did sacrifice it during your playing days?
Not really, no. That's bizarre, isn't it? I was never someone to... I probably eat a little bit more chocolate what I do. I've never been a bit. But I used to eat chocolate when I was playing. That was my go-to, and there was times where I was carrying a little bit of weight. I had to stop when you're injured. You think, you're probably doing 40k a week. Realistically, you might run 10, 15, and then you get 7 or 8k 2 or 3 times a week. So all those kind of things, that's something I miss, is being fit, but I tend to try and do 2 or 3 runs a week just to keep in a little bit of shape. Just being able to go on holiday. Yeah, in school time, in
term time.
Yeah, we're away in a few weeks because it's half term, and all these things that you could never do. You had a 6-week break in the summer, and that was it. You were always planning to the international breaks. Could we have 3 days away? But now my boy is in school, and all these kind of things that you can plan. I've actually got a diary now. Whereas when I was playing, I never had a diary.
Got social calendar as well.
Yeah,
when you're working in sport, football.
You do, because I'm away on a Saturday. I don't get back late till Saturday night. I miss the lads. I miss going into training, because I'd always go into training, and that's something the lads said to me. How did you stay so positive, like when you weren't playing? I was 36 37. I probably wouldn't have been like that at 26, 27. But you just try and set an example. You go into train, and there was managers that I didn't get on with all the time, and I wasn't playing, so I wouldn't have a relationship like I did. But all these kind of things, you try and pass that example on to the next generation, because they're going through it. You can only play 11 players. So what with the subs? They're not happy. But what you can do is you can go and train hard and respect every other person in around the football club.
And we saw that absolutely coming out from everywhere you went in your career. Quickly though, your son, is he going to be a footballer?
He enjoys playing. Yeah. He loves it. Yeah, I mean, look, being a player, I know how hard it is.
Well, and your brothers.
And
both of your brothers.
Andy obviously had a great career, and Kev played professionally till 23 and unfortunately went out of the game. So I've seen both sides. It's a tough industry when you get to the top and you can stay there and you look back and had 20 years. But I played with a lot of kids coming down here. We'd come on a Friday night, got on a train from Yorkshire. A lot of them lads went out of the game, and you sacrifice and you lose your teenage years. I would never have changed it. Would them? I don't know. Only they can answer that, because they didn't go on to play as long as I did. But I loved every minute. And Louis can do whatever he wants. He can play football. I don't care, as long as he's happy.
He's almost the age when you started here. So
that's true.
Watch this space in the future. You keep mentioning COVID. We've got to talk about, let's actually start the other way around. Let's start your last stint here, when you came back in 2018, and you said it was tough. You kind of came in, had a season, and then it was 19-20 and it was COVID. How did you kind of rally around as the leader type that you were to the players when we had such an unknown? I mean, it was 3 years this month, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was the unknown, and we were in great form before.
You were in playoff position.
Before we were all shut down. And I remember the trip, we were going to Sheffield Wednesday on the Saturday. We played midweek. We got beat heavily here by Millwall, which was disappointing. And then the Friday, I remember driving down, we trained late. We used to train late on a Friday, and then we'd go to a hotel at Sheffield. On the way down, I get a call saying the whole training ground shut down. We're not going to be playing. And that was it. I turned around and went home, and I was home for, 6 to 8 weeks. I'd had my daughter in October. My boy was doing homeschooling, or my wife was doing the homeschooling with the boy. I left that to them, but I would be literally putting her down in the morning for a 10, half 10 sleep. I'd be then putting my training gear on and going doing a run. We had set runs that we had to do. It was any time of day you could do it, but I'd always get it done in that 45 minutes to an hour period where she was sleeping, get back, and we'd have a Zoom gym session. It was hard. It was times when you think, where are we going with this? Along with the whole world, I suppose. It was tough. It was challenging, and then we were fortunate as an industry to be able to come back and have a little bit of normality. Training, it was done very different, and not to the professionalism as you would all been brought up on, and how it was going to be. You would come in your training kit, not going in the buildings, would be in the dome at Wilford, and then you go out on the training pitch. All these kind of things, it's not professionalism. You get in early, you have your breakfast, you have your massage, you get your kit, you're ready, pre-act. That had all gone out the window, and we just never reacted from it when we came back. Coming and playing football here
with no one, that was not what you dreamt of doing as grassroots. The atmosphere was, honestly, it was so bad. How much do you think, or can you kind of calculate it changed?
Oh, it did.
How you felt as a performer? Let's say, obviously, you're always trying to play at 100, 110%. What percentage do you think you then acted on when there was no one here? And this isn't a negative, it's just reality of the situation.
I'm saying below 50%.
Oh.
I was a player that, when I arrived on the bus or arrived in my car, music on, I could feel the adrenaline straight away. You'd have fans there. Footballers are performers. Not everyone was like that, because you've seen some players perform better under COVID than what others did. I used to have nerves. It was like a pre-season game sometime when I used to come in, and if I didn't have that nerves, I'd make mistakes and all these kind of things. As a substitute, you'd be sat in the stands. You could hear everything. That was reserve team football. When I was dreaming of being a first team player, I played in the reserve team. We'd get a few hundred here, and you could see that was each step to becoming a professional footballer. Being a professional footballer, playing in an empty city ground or wherever he went, that wasn't football. And I thought that was maybe just me, that I was coming to the latter stage of my career. It wasn't. I spoke to Premier League players who felt, have you lost that hunger? And we see some results. I mean, one result that stands out was Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2. That doesn't happen.
Crazy
results, and it was different, and one that probably made people appreciate fans a lot more. I think football without them is nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And obviously you've spoken openly about that your departure was muted, possibly because of COVID, and you maybe didn't get the send-off that you wanted. How disappointing. How challenging was that? After a 20-year career.
Yeah, my agent and when I did retire, I was like, look, we'll put it under the radar, go out, no problem.
Was that because you wanted that? Because you're not public anyway?
No, that's just how I was. And he was like, no, you can't have this. You've had a great career. You should have some recognition. And I'm glad he did it in the end because he pushed it. Duncan Ross, great guy, he does the media stuff. He's a magnificent person. He was like, right, we're going to do it. We're going to put this press release out. I was like, and I'm glad he did. I'd have been in tears if I'd have walked around here with my kids and the fans had have been singing, and the appreciation I would have got, I would have been in tears. So probably I got away with that. But yeah, I mean, it was probably the norm in the end. I went out in that way. But as I said, I appreciate the career I had and the clubs I played for. I give everything, and the fans were great to me when I was here. And they still are. They still realise the love that I have for the football club.
I mean, the club did a little something for you, didn't they? Nicholas Randall, he came and obviously presented you with a little gift to take home. Yeah. So it was more internally, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was. And it was the only way we could do it. Brody was down here and Grabs came and Chris at the time, who was manager, came and the lads, we all went for some food. But we had to sit outside. It was bizarre. We're all sitting outside and it was freezing, having a little bit of food and a drink. It wasn't like we could go into town and have a meal and then a few drinks and all that and have a send-off. So I appreciate what they did for me, but I was quite happy just to go out quietly. That's
you though, isn't it? And that's something which is not the norm for a lot of footballers. For example, you don't have social media. I was trying to remember, when you were at Spurs and Hull, did you have social media for a time, or have you never had it?
I've never had social media.
Why?
I just don't know it can help the mental side of a footballer. And when I retired, I spoke to Duncan. He said, we need to get on social media. I said, I don't need to be on social media. I have a quiet life, wife, kids. People will write things when I do stuff on a Saturday. People might not like me on the TV. I don't know anyone in the world who likes to read negativity. But I am big with the football. I don't know why they have them. For me personally, that's my opinion. Businesses, yeah, you can use it to your advantage and get the recognition and all those kind of things. But as a player, I could affect one thing, and that's what's going on in my head, in my body, and I can perform when I cross that white line. And any negativity in and around it, I don't get it. Whenever my parents or anyone had come to watch me, I never spoke about the game after. When I'd been good, bad, indifferent, this happened. This was when I walked through the front door. This was a family that were there because of who I was, not a footballer, to be there for support when you're going through that. And I just, that's what you need. And going on social media and reading things, I don't know how it can help you. I couldn't deal with that. And confidence is a massive thing in football, in any walk of life. And if someone can take that away from you, why have it? If you can deal with it, good luck to you. I wouldn't have been a person that could have dealt with that criticism. I put myself under an awful lot of pressure to perform and be as good as I could be. These fans might not even like you. There might be rivals. They're writing things about you. It's a little bit different now. If someone's... My mates were the worst thing when I'd said something wrong on a weekend. But now I don't have to perform. I'm just myself. You have to perform as a player. You've got to go and perform to the best of your ability. And I've just never been a big fan of it.
Yeah, and I'm guessing players now, it's been around, since 2010? I'm thinking Twitter was about 2010, 2012. I mean, you were obviously still playing before that. You maybe had a look in the papers and stuff. But now I guess we kind of know how to deal with that. You can mute certain notifications or whatever. And it just has become the norm. It's a way to
well, that's it. I'm not
put yourself out there.
I mean, look, I'm not quite 40 yet. But the younger generation of kids, that's all they know. My boy's 8, so when he gets to 12, 13, will he have social media? It's up to him. But that's just the norm. We're living in a day and age where you have to get with the times. We talk about the older generations of managers, how it's getting younger and younger and the different way of managing. And Sabri was probably the first one of that. Knowing all these insights I thought it was me when he bought my little boy and a girl a birthday present at Christmas. I'm thinking, how does he know all these kind of things? It wasn't just me. He'd have a meeting and we had a book and it wrote to the kids and all these kind of things. He knew everything. And this was something for me that was like, wow. Every single player in there, he'd speak about their kids and it just becomes more personal then. And that was at the last stage of my career, but that's how it's gone.
Is that the first manager you ever had who acted that way?
Yeah, it was. And when Sabri came in and It's funny he called me when he went to Cardiff. Still speak to him, but it was the first manager that had gone from having to deal with the mental side of players and not always probably believing what he says to players. I think that way, but it's about getting the best out of them on the pitch to go and perform.
Do you think if you had a coach like Sabri earlier on in your career, you'd have performed even better than you did? I mean, we're talking about your captain Spurs, your captain Hull, your captain Forest, you've been to Champions League finals, you won League Cup finals, you've played for England, you went to a World Cup. What do you think, having a manager like that, and knowing the kind of person you are, you like praise, you don't like negativity, you're an open person, as in, you're so friendly and open to be around, so you like that kind of vibe. Do you think it would have enhanced your career in any way?
Good question. And I don't think I can answer that because I had the other end of the spectrum when Paul Hart signed me at 14. He petrified me.
Opposite.
He petrified me, but he gave me the opportunity. 16, I left home and moved here. And when I had to go and see him, see if I go home at the weekend, I'd walk to him and some of the staff would say, probably not the best time to go and see him today. He wasn't in the best of moods. And then he gave me my debut. But was he hard on me as anyone else? Yeah. Horrible at times. But that put the demands on me, and I would say that started from my mum and dad. I've always respect being on time, respect everyone, whoever they are. But Paul instilled that into me all the way through my career. I did everything to the best I could to get the best out of me, because I was definitely one of the best players at 16 or 18 or at 35. But I give everything. So it's just the way times have moved on. That back when I was 14, 16, 18, 20, you couldn't deal in the same way when I was 35. And that's just the younger generation of players, and I think there's got to be a fine balance of telling a player what's right and wrong, but overstepping the mark as well.
Well, different players need completely different management styles as well. Some need just to be guided, some need a hard stick like possibly Paul Hart gave you. So I guess, it depends also what point in the career you're at that time a manager comes in. Definitely,
and I think Paul was so hard because he wanted to keep people on the straight and narrow. I mean, look, you're a young...
Old school,
and he brought us through. He'd made that crop of players. We're living in a city. You can go out. He would find out when we'd been out. We're young 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
How would he find out where you'd been?
Well, he'd obviously have spies who was out and about. But it's all about not taking your eye off the ball, literally, because you can be distracted, going out on a Tuesday, going out on a Saturday, all these things that affect your performance at a weekend. And ultimately that what's boiled down. If you could go out on a Tuesday, go out on a Saturday, but still perform to the best of your ability on a weekend, no problem. But if you couldn't, that was affecting you, the outcome of, and then you wouldn't go on and make it. So he just instilled that into you.
Obviously, you've gone now to the academy, your first stint at Forest, talking about Paul Hart. What would the implications then be if you went out on a weekday or went out and Hart caught you?
Oh, wow.
What would that look like for you?
I remember we had a Christmas party. And all the younger lads, look, we had a lot. There wasn't just me or two or three players. We were probably 10 of us. I reckon you look back to Barry Roach, Brian Cash, Reidy and myself. I think JJ had left at the time. Tuesday afternoon, used to go out. Senior players, right, we're going out, Christmas party. I remember him saying before he went, you going out? Like, yeah, we're a group. He went, right, you'll all be in tomorrow at 9:00. Oh my gosh, you're thinking you've had a skinful the night before, you've had a few drinks. It was part of the norm then back in the day, but this was a Christmas party. You got the senior lads going out, Wardy, Ricky Skimmicker, the good group. This is a team together. It's probably happened once a year. And I remember the next morning waking up thinking, how am I going to get into training?
Did you all make it?
I made it. Did
everyone make it?
Yeah, I think they did. I think he put the fear into everyone. We all made it. Eyes were everywhere, but we made it.
What were some of his? Am I allowed to say toughest? I guess if he had done something wrong, what are his rules to abide by, and what he would do?
Well, he would tell you. I remember making a mistake here in one of my first games. I probably got a bit of my head of myself. Wardy was running back. I should have just played it back to Wardy, and I tried a trick. And it come off my other heel and they scored. Probably getting too big for my boots too quick. Very confident. And I remember at half-time, oh my word, it absolutely went ballistic. Someone said to me, and he went, you don't listen to him, he doesn't know what day of the week it is. He's having a nightmare. And I was 18 years old. If I'd heard a manager saying that to an 18-year-old and I'm 35, I'd have had to go and sit next to the player and put my arm around him and say, look, don't worry, Gaffer's just lofted today. And that's where Des came in. He was so good. playing alongside Des, he helped me at periods where Paul was hard on me, he would blame me. Des would take me under his wing and help me.
Is there anyone, obviously you've spoken quite a lot about Des doing that before, is there anyone that you acted in the same role as Des in your career going forward, either at Spurs, Hull or back here at Forest, that you wanted to take a younger player under your wing? Not necessarily because the manager was hard on you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was different then because the managers weren't like they were, but obviously was a younger player. Enormous time for Woz, what he's done. He's probably a little bit more confident than I was at that age in the ability. But Cashy, when he came into play right back alongside me, he was a kid that I took to straight away. He's got that personality that you can't not like. He's great. Along with Yates, probably like myself, I look at him and think, he does everything right on the pitch, everything right off it, from sleeping to eating to drinking the right stuff and just looking after himself and working hard in the gym. You just want to see players get the opportunity, and he's done that.
And he's someone that we had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago that had such a tough time for the fans as well, and who is on social media, and he kind of has done full circle now, but he didn't let that affect him, which was testament to the character and his family as well.
I think that's the younger generation of players. So I say I couldn't have been on it. They are on it, and they deal with that probably in a better way that the older generation deal with it. That's just how they've probably learned to do it. I listen to younger players doing interviews. Wow, they have some confidence. I wouldn't have been that confident doing an interview then, but that's just how it is. They've come into the world with social media. That's all they've known. They haven't known to open a paper on a Sunday morning. My dad would go home at a weekend. Dad would open the paper. You'd look at the marks.
Yeah.
They won't know what newspapers are. Yeah. That's just how it is. Like it's and Yates took his fair share of criticism. But I tell you what, we're a different team when he's in it. That is 100%. You couldn't have 11 Yateses and you couldn't have 11 Brennan Johnsons. You've got to mix and match with the team and the players that you've got to utilise your player at the top of the field, to your defenders, to Yates in midfield. But since he's been out, we've certainly missed him.
Well, there's the quote that I said to him when he was on here. I said, Gary Brazil said to you, if you take a pint of your blood and put it in every single player in the academy, we'd have a successful squad. And that's basically what
it's true. It's true. You look where he went to on loan, Barrow, Scunthorpe, Notts County. He's been everywhere to get the opportunity to play in this first team. And I remember it was Simon and myself. Actually, I'm sure we brought him on for his debut at Reading. And I loved him. And we were 1-0 down at the time. And Tendai ended up getting sent off and went 2-0 down. I was like, get Yates on. Put him on. He deserves this opportunity. I watch him day in, day out. And you do become to have favourites. Of course you do. But you have favourites because they work hard and they get the best out of what the gift that they've been given. And as I say, Forrest's missing when he's not playing. I can guarantee you that. Yeah,
exactly. We were talking to him about the fact that he's back now, which is great. Hopefully.
Great news.
Yeah. I want to go back to the first stint, as we were kind of going off on a tangent of that one. Story that I want to confirm, you can say it's true or not. Were you a milkman?
I was a milkman. You've done an awful lot of research.
I mean, where did you... Was it around here when you were like 9?
Was it up in Yorkshire? I was 13 years old. I always put this down to my education. I was up at 6:15 in the morning. I'd deliver milk from 6:30 to 8, 10 past 8. I'd leg it home. I'd take a pint of milk with me. I'd warm my Weetabix up. I'd have that, jump in the bath, and I'd lie in the bath and think, I've got to go to school now. First lesson at school, non-existent. I'd be half asleep. So I put it down to that, having to go to work and be a milkman.
I blame your parents as well, saying you had to go and do a milk round before school.
There you go. You work hard. Get out there and work, and when you become a footballer, it's easy, you see.
But again, when you hear stories of players that have done different jobs and it's instilled a kind of work ethic in them, do you think kind of having that little bit of a job in your life has instilled a different character? But in getting up, what it's like anyway if you're getting up early in the winter in this country.
I love my sleep as well, Rach. Okay, I tell you, I could sleep 12 hours a day, not a problem. That doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, I used to, when I was a player, I'd sleep in an afternoon 2-3 hours and then go to bed and have another 10-11 hours sleep. I slept for fun. But going back to that, I used to wake up at 6:15 and it was, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, but I did it, and I don't know if it stood me in good stead, but it certainly made everything else easier in life, I'm sure. Yeah,
well, obviously then we were talking about that you were here from 9 years old, again, trekking up and down the country, going back home to North Yorkshire. That was a commitment for your family, especially because your brother was here as well. What was, the sacrifices that We talk about, but you never really get the details. It's quite the journey. It's not like just popping over kind of the border or somewhere. For them to have a couple of sons down here as well, it's tough. Did they move down here? What did that look like for you guys?
No, Mum and Dad were great. I mean, look, there's 5 years difference between me and Andy, and then 2.5 between me and Kev. So we've all followed in Andy's footsteps, leaving here at 16. So when I was coming here at 14, Andy would be 19. I think Kev was in the digs around the corner. So I would finish school, I'd leg it home. My dad would make me tea because Mum would be at work. Dad finished early on a Friday. I'd jump in the bath, I'd get my tracksuit on, I'd have pie, chips and beans for my tea. Something simple, straight to the train station.
Real healthy as well. The diet did change as we progressed in the career. Of course it did. I mean,
funds weren't there as easy to come by. It was quick, get it done. Straight to Darling, which probably took about 35 minutes. I remember it as if it was yesterday. I used to get the 5:35 train from Darling. We used to have to change at Derby as well, which was an absolute nightmare on a Saturday when I'd gone home, or Sunday whenever they were playing. And I'd get in at 8:30. We'd get picked up at the station. There was lads coming from London. There was a few of us, few got on at York, I got on at Darlington, and we'd just train Saturday morning, home Sunday. So that sacrifice was so hard. You'd have school to do Monday to Friday, every weekend, but then every school holiday, you'd be down here for a week or 10 days, whatever it was, and you just stay. So your sacrifices were big. It was hard. There was times when your friends were going out and you weren't. Look, I used to go out. Andy took me under his wing. I'd be going out at 15. I would do this. This was how it was. I wasn't squeaky clean. Let me tell you, I would go out and enjoy myself like every other young kid. But then when I moved here at 16, my career just went from strength to strength. No education to do well Wednesday and Thursday afternoon. But I just loved playing football. Football was my life from the age I could walk. It really, really was. And I just wanted to be a professional footballer so badly. And when someone wants something so much, you give sacrifices, and maybe that gave me the edge that to the players that were superior to me. Maybe they thought they had it before they did.
Well, you probably don't even look at them as sacrifices when you're in the moment, do you? We talk about it now and you look back and go, oh, the things I missed out on and what I did, the train down from Darlington. But are you only looking at that now and saying you think that was a sacrifice? At the time, was it just part and parcel? Do you know what I mean? Was it just the norm?
It was, because it was fun.
Yeah.
And we'd stay at the cricket club some nights. We'd stay at home Pier Point all week, and we'd stay wherever, because there was quite a few of us did it. But like I said earlier, not everyone went on to make it. Some got released at 16, had done the same 2-year journey as what I'd done. Then all of a sudden, what do you do? You've gone from thinking this is going to be great and leaving school and going into full-time being an academy player. That is taken away for them. So there was times when you thought, oh, my mate's going out on a Friday night or a Saturday night, but you would have never changed it because you love playing football. But that's the distractions that kids have, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously know all about the people who don't make it. There's only a small percentage of you that do, and especially now as well with all the international signing becoming.
I think it's got harder, Rachel. I do believe that, especially in the Premier League, because of the finances. You look at the turnover at this football club, how many players have come in, how many they've signed. So that does definitely make a difference. But you look at the Championship where the money isn't the same, League One, League Two, so you do have a different avenue to go down. But the Premier League is so hard to break through as a young English British player.
Why do you think you did break through?
I think I was at the right football club. I do believe that. I had the right manager in charge in Paul Hart, and I was obviously good enough. I think all those three factors came into getting the opportunity. I've said a lot of players played in this first team that were in the academy, but maybe drifted down the leagues or drifted out of the game. So it's all well and good saying getting the opportunity, but then can you sustain it for longevity? And that is the difference. People say it's hard to break in. No, it's hard to stay in. That's the hardest. Many players, if you look at the academy of players who've gone through and gone, how many games did they play? Might have played under 10. To go on to play a lot more is a lot harder.
Well, then let's talk about where you went next then from here with Reidy. Obviously, that's very well documented of how that came about. It was obviously this joint transfer. The story I'd like you to tell was there something to do with you two in a field in Essex?
Yes, there was.
I thought there might have been.
There was. You've done well.
It was more in the papers rather than people talking about it a lot.
It's true, and that was really down to a T, honestly. It was ridiculous. So we left here in transfer deadline day. We went down to London. We went to a hotel around the corner because we were still toing and froing.
Do you think it was going to go through?
Yeah, I think we always knew it was going to go through. The finances of the football club, they needed money in. He was just given the green light. So we were at a hotel, Reidy with his agent, me with my agent. So Reidy said, let's go for a walk. Not having a clue where we are in Chigwell. So we went for a walk and he thought it was going to be a circle, but this circle just kept getting bigger and bigger. Then we ended up going through a field. It was... Honestly, I'm like, Reidy, what we're doing? It's now like time. We're getting a hot sweat on us, and I'm twitching anyway. Reidy's like, it's all right. I said, Reidy, we're going further. Should we not just turn back and go the way we know and get back to okay? No, if we walk round, it's a circle. But this circle, I swear, is like going to the Trent and coming up. Oh my! It was never ending. And then eventually we got to a road, and his agent phoned and said, look, it's all agreed. Where are you? He's like, well, we're at a road. We don't know where we are.
Probably no Google Maps then to go
Yeah, but there was probably no Google Maps then. It was honestly, it was. So we just put his agent put a road in and they come picked us up. So, and then we get there and we're like sweating, trainers dirty. It's like, oh, really? Honestly, it was, yeah. It would have been easier just to turn back the way we'd gone and get there within, if you walk 20 minutes, it's going to take 20 minutes to get back. No, Reidy just said, keep going.
Did you used to do everything that Reidy said?
No.
Seemed like you did though, didn't it?
No, after that, me and Reidy
leave Forest, come for a walk with me. You might not make it to the medical.
Definitely not do what Reidy did. That could have been trouble.
But that was the kind of character he was as well. Obviously, and you know, I'm not saying that the move came about because of him, but it was a joint move, obviously over to Spurs, which was the start of something really special for you. But what was that relationship then like between the two of you when you went to Spurs? Obviously, it was vital here and a great relationship, and we still see you kind of together on and off the pitch. Did it continue the same? Yeah,
of course. You go with a player that you've known for a long time. And Reidy's, I had a stress fracture when I signed, so it was hard for me because I was doing different timings to what Reidy was. He was playing, and all these kind of things is different. You're outside with the guys who are training. You're playing. I had to wait 2 or 3 months. I think April it was when I made my debut. So that was harder for me than what it was for him. He went straight into the team at the weekend and played, and had a big impact in the game when they beat Portsmouth. But I had to wait. But yeah, we sat next to each other in the changing room, and yeah, it was just having a familiar face. But players took me under my wing there. Robbie Keane was incredible. First day, I'm walking into a dressing room coming from the Championship full of superstars, world-class players, and Robbie took us straight out for a bite to eat. And as I say, they just took me under my wing and felt part, and as I say, was part of the gags on many a time that they took the mickey out of.
I mean, talking about a team of superstars, I was just thinking the kind of players that you played with at Spurs. I mean, the Gareth Bales, Champions League winners, the Luka Modric's, who's still going now at the World Cup this year. Team obviously was second 4 years ago, obviously third place this year. I mean, what was it like to be a part of a team with those kind of players? Like, were they two of the best in that Spurs side?
Definitely. Gaz was the best player I ever played with, just because he could win a football match on his own. And I was very fortunate to play with world-class players. I
remember the Champions League final when he did the bicycle kick as well. I mean, you just watched him and you're like, I was there in that moment in that stadium going, wow, you are special.
Yeah, I mean, look, I played with special players. I did. I mean, you look at Van der Vaart, you look at Modric, you look at Bale, you look at Defoe, Crouchy, Berbatov, Van der Vaart. I mean, the list goes on. Ledley King. And there's some I will have missed there as well, by the way. I played with Hugo when he made his debut for Spurs. So I was fortunate to captain them players as well for a short period, and it was an honour. I still now to the day when I went back and Gaz was back at Spurs, you don't forget the players you played with. He signed a shirt to Louis and these kind of things. But what a career he's had. Probably not the recognition that he deserves, in my opinion, till he finished. He was world class, and he was in a period, probably not longevity as what your Messi and Ronaldo's have been, but there was a period in his career where he was certainly up with them. He was phenomenal, and like I said, I think he was 12-13 at Spurs where he carried us. And when you play with a world-class player, you realise, because they get you out of trouble more time, the game might be 0-0, you might be losing 1-0, they will get something out of nowhere that no other player can get, and that for me defines world-class to a really good player.
Do you think he maybe didn't get the recognition that the other kind of superstars you were just saying, Messi, Ronaldo's, did? Because he's also not that kind of person that really publicises himself. He's a very quiet, reserved kind of person. Okay, Messi's not as much as Ronaldo, I'd say, but Bale is the complete opposite. More like yourself.
Complete opposite to what you see Cristiano. And when he went to Real, you wondered how he was going to slot in. Because he wouldn't walk into a dressing room and go, it's all about me, I'm Gareth Bale. So he was pretty quiet. He was no different to Spurs. He was pretty quiet. I used to sit next to him. He sat to the right of me. He might have been the left, actually. Guns might have been to the right. And he was pretty quiet. We played golf. He took golf up early. A few of us joined the club, and he would play his golf, and then he'd go on. We might have a drink. He didn't do that. All he did was keep himself to himself. That was him, and he was a superstar. So it's not like people change, and then that's how he was as a young kid growing up to his parents. And what a guy, what a career, absolutely phenomenal.
Well, the football definitely could do the talking for the likes of Gareth Bale, of course. Talking about strikers, anyone in your career that you were just so frightened to go up against? Was there?
Where do I start?
No, but come on. If you can give us all one story about you, oh my gosh, not tonight. What are we letting ourselves in for here?
Oh,
I mean, must go to Champions League.
Aguero, Ronaldo, Rooney, Drogba.
Did you used to get nervous with those kind of players, knowing you're like, they're obviously gonna be on the team sheet, they're obviously starting, you know who you're up against?
I got nervous whoever I was playing against, because I wanted to be better than your opponents. I wanted to win. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to send everyone home happy. So I got nervous. That was irrelevant. The only time I never got nervous was probably early on in your career. I made my debut. I was more excited when I made my debut for Spurs at Anfield. I think it was Torres at the time, if I'm right. More excited to go out and perform. It was probably then a season in where you go, everyone's talking about you, you've set the bar so high, now you have to perform for that. And when you come down, then you start getting criticised and you think, wow, how do I get back? So your nerves comes in. But the excitement, and you were playing against world-class players week in, week out, and it came to Kevin Davis, who was an absolute handful. Whenever we played Bolton at the Reebok, we always lost. Whenever we played him at White Hart Lane, we won. It was one of those. Kevin Davis was an absolute handful. He'd always score, and it was like you go in on a Monday morning to win a header. It was all these kind of things, but different players. I mean, week in, week out, they were phenomenal. Robin van Persie, Adebayor when he was at Arsenal, your rivals, and his scores, and you think, no way. Week in, week out in the Premier League, you are playing against the best players in the world. So you had to be at your best, because if you weren't, and even when you were at your best, it sometimes wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you've had obviously an excellent career, like I alluded to. Champions League, you're a captain wherever you went. You know, that's just a testament to you and your personality. League Cup titles, talking of Drogba, I think he was the guy that scored that goal. Obviously, you went on to win, which was great. But for Chelsea there, and the World Cup, I just want to touch on that. Obviously, you didn't get a play, but what a moment getting to go out there to South Africa to be part of that squad. Was that like, I guess it was a highlight, and possibly on the other side not. Yeah, I mean, look, I'd probably arguably my best season. I got Player of the Year at Spurs at the time, and I still think now when you go back to the Aussie Ardelis, Ginolas, Klinsmann, Bale, Berbatov, Keane, Defoe, Ledley King, Harry Kane, now Sonny, and them kind of players, you're on a Platt, Teddy Sheringham. That was my best year. I got Player of the Year, and that for me it was an unbelievable achievement. And Fabio recognised that, and we had 2 weeks away, high altitude training before we went to South Africa. And I think there was 6 of us. I think it was there was Rio, JT, Ledley King, Carragher, Matty Upson, and myself. So they were never going to take 6 of us. So ultimately, it was going to be me and Matty Upson, who the centre halves weren't going to be going. And 2 weeks back, we came, and then Fabio said, "Right, I'll give you all a call tomorrow before the 23-man squad is announced." And I remember being in London with Tom Huddleston. We went for some food, and his phone rang. He went, "I ain't answering that." He went, "That'll be the bad call." My phone rang about 10 seconds later. I said, "Well, I'm answering." So it was Fabio, and he just said, "Look, Michael, unfortunately, you're not in the squad." I said, "No problem." I said, I'll be a fan now. I wish you luck. I will be. I'll be down the pub with my brother and my mates, and we'll be watching it, because you country's going to a World Cup. So that's how it was. So me and Tom went out that day. We're on holiday now. We've finished for 4 or 5 weeks. Next day we're off, and then they fly over, I think the day after. Rio gets injured. So the whole nation are devastated. The Michael Dawson family and everyone are absolutely delighted, because my phone rings, and it was Michelle from the FA saying, "Look, Rio's out. He's done his medial ligament. You're on the next flight tonight to South Africa." I was like, literally, it was
me and my wife's first wedding anniversary. So I was just planning on booking going to London for a few nights before we went on holiday. That soon went out the window. I literally was on the next flight that night, probably a night flight, and flew over, and that was me. I said, I'll see you in hopefully 6 weeks. Unfortunately, it was only 3 weeks because unfortunately we went out to Germany. But it was an incredible experience. Yes, I didn't get on the pitch, but just to go and see how a World Cup was and to see how the England team are doing now is credit to Gareth, because they've got a different togetherness of what we had back in 2010, and that was the only World Cup I obviously went to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't play the biggest part that you would have hoped to, but even that story gives me goosebumps just hearing about how that came about, and getting the call a little bit late kind of makes it even more special. Sorry to your wife that she didn't get her anniversary holiday, but yeah, I'm sure you made
a few since then. She's all right.
I'm sure you're still going strong. I'm conscious of time here, Dawes. Before we go, we've got two little things also up my sleeve, or behind my cushion, as I'll say here. First up, we would like story time with Michael Dawson.
Story time. What book we're reading?
We're reading Rachel's iPad, Forest fans. Forest players, past and present. I've taken a couple of pictures of them.
Okay.
And I'd like you to look at the player and try and remember a story from your time here with them.
That's a long time ago.
Well, there's only one act. Well, actually, there's a couple of parts, but still, not too old school. First one, you can show the camera as well.
Oh, Benny Osborn, Forest legend, young kid coming through the ranks. Benny was always one that was pretty quiet, went about, very dry sense of humour. And I remember one trip, we were going on tour, I can't remember where it was, it might have been Spain. And we're all on the way down on the... I remember I could see him sat on a bus. And we're all going, has everyone got your passport? What have you got to remember? Your football boots and your passport to get out of the country. That's all you need. Everything else is going to be sorted for you. You can survive. So you can get it over there. So we're all going, who's forgot the passports? Benny gets I think we're flying from Luton, we might have been. He forgets his passport. His face dropped. Benny was pretty relaxed most of the time. Well, literally all the time. He played like that. Forgot his passport. Well, he just... Oh, my word. He just looked like the world was ending. He was like, oh, I'm going to tell my...
Did he make it? What?
Yeah, he made it in the end. Someone must have brought his passport. I don't know if he brought his girlfriend's, but I don't know what happened, but he forgot his passport anyway, and how he got it down, I was thinking, oh my word. And do you know what, you got that nervous laugh for him, you think, oh my word, imagine what he's going through. But do you know when something like that happens with a group of lads on a bus, there's no sympathy, they just grill you even more. You can see the fear on his face, and but thankfully for Benny, he got it. He was a great lad, and obviously he left to go to the Premier League when it happened with Sheffield United, but he'll always be a fan's favourite here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, would you like to swipe and see who we've got next?
Oh, Joe Lolley. What a player. First time I come across Joe Lolley, and it sticks with me. We went to St George's Park, my first trip. So I signed in the summer, met the lads, and we're on the bus. And I sat next to him at lunch, and I thought, this guy is hilarious. Like, I sat next to him, never met him, never come across him, and he would like we've known each other for long enough. He starts going on about his student life.
No one wants to hear about anyone's student life.
I'm telling you, his student life summed him up, and he never improved. I thought, well, you must have changed now, Lolley. Kidderminster to Huddersfield, now you're at Forest, massive football club, and he still lived like a student. Honestly, he was. I mean, one of the stories when he'd been out, like, getting in, which I'm sure many students do. I was never a student, so I never lived this, buying a pizza and eating it, and then the next morning getting up and having it again. I'm like, Lolley, come on, mate. I've never done this, but this is how he was. He was just a character, good laugh, and another good friend that we met along the way.
Well, Dawes, I can confirm I was a student, but I will not confirm or deny if I did a Joe Lolley and did that with a pizza. Well,
yours was Chinese, maybe Chinese, and then in the morning warm it up. Lolley said he didn't even warm it up. I was like, oh. There was plenty of drinking games that he went and, tying your hands to bottles and things like that. Fair old man, yeah.
There we go. We wish him luck.
Yeah, great.
Next, this guy.
Oh, Kashi. What a character.
You got on well with him. You already told us that.
Yeah, I got on, a real soft spot for Kashi when he... classic Cash, they used to say. Some of the things he came out with. And to see where he's gone to today, he was as daft as a brush. But one of them characters, do you walk into a dressing room that you just straight away take to? You want to do well. You want to put your arm around him. And Sabri made him into a right back. He was a right winger when I came in, and... He had all the attributes. He did, and we see him at Aston Villa now, big club in the Premier League, quick, strong. He had a great delivery, free kicks, but he was always one of them lads that everyone loved, but we all took the mickey out of.
Classic Cash.
Classic Cash, there you go.
And finally...
I saw them just before.
I know you did.
Yeah.
We've got Brennan and David Johnson here.
Yeah.
If you couldn't see the picture.
And not many players can probably say this. I did it with two dads and two sons, and that was probably time when I knew I was getting old. Obviously played with David Johnson, brilliant player, and we had a trip. Jono broke his leg, and we ended up going to La Manga, I think it was. I'd done my hamstring, and we went away and had a trip. But I was a young 18-year-old, and Jono was a senior player, and good guy, another player that you sort of looked up to. Him and Marlon. 20 plus goals in the Championship, get us to a playoff. David would always play on the shoulder of a centre half, so I'd play against David always in training. And but yeah, different. Jono was a young player, and I thought he should have got an opportunity before he did here. Brennan, sorry, I'm talking Jono. They're both Jonos, aren't they?
I'm still. We all know
you are, yeah.
Because you're saying David and then Jono,
yeah.
so we're going. We're
Brennan,
realising it's Brennan.
You always saw it. He's when he stepped up and trained with us. Scoring goals, assisting, and then last year when Steve came in, giving him the opportunity, and he was one of the reasons why Forest got promoted, because he was sensational. We see him this year when he gets his chances, he tends to take them. So younger player in my time here, Brennan, and the other player I've played with, dad and son, was Tyler and Des, two great people. So. That's a challenge for you. Find any other players that have played with two dads and two sons, because that means you're getting old.
Well, that isn't what's coming next.
All right,
I do
okay.
have one thing that's coming next. We have a leaderboard with some questions, and there was things like that I was trying to do. I was thinking maybe 3 brothers in a match, but anyway, didn't quite get there.
Okay.
So, Dawes, we have a leaderboard every week. You can see who's leading at the moment, and didn't surprise you.
No, it doesn't surprise me with Yates.
Okay, so we've got 5 questions and then a bonus question. So 5 questions, they're all kind of about you and your career. So you should know them. Okay.
Really?
Really.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, no, not that long. Right, question
like
1.
it.
Ready? How many
Not
appearances did you make in the Premier League?
Oh, man.
Surely this comes up on Soccer Saturday. I reckon it comes up weekly. Michael Dawson played X amount of appearances in the Premier League.
How many it must be within 10? No, I can't get exactly the right number. I've got an idea.
Okay, within 10.
I've got an idea now. Well, if I get within 10, I'll get it. A Premier League. 283.
286.
Oh.
You were getting the point that we just said it within 10.
Yeah.
When you're in the 80s, it's like you've already got it. You were close.
Yeah.
I bet it does.
Do you know why I was angry that I didn't get 300? Ooh. Yeah.
86.
Little things like that. I didn't get 600 appearances as well, and that really annoyed me. I was thinking, if I'd sat on my ass for a little bit longer, I'd put me on, man.
Should have been the bench cam longer.
Well, I never got no one ever chucked me on for the appearance money, did they?
Just
get me on for a minute
at the end. So 1, we're giving you that. Okay. You were named, number 2, you were named in the PFA Championship Team of the Year in 2002-03. Which other Forest player made the team that year?
Must have been Reidy. Oh, no. Oh, was it? Oh. I've just said John O'Marlon as well. Oh, Matty was young. We had an unbelievable year.
There's just 2 of you.
Oh, Jim Brennan.
You can't name them all. Your squad was good, but...
Yeah, it must... If it's not one of them players, I will be... Oh, was it Darren Ward? Oh, my gosh. It's definitely one of them, though, isn't it? It's guaranteed.
You named about 6 there.
Yeah, I know I did. Yeah, but...
You got to name 1.
Right. It's going to be wrong. I'll go Andy Reid.
No, David Johnson.
David Johnson.
Yeah. So 1 out of 2. Question 3. You had 2 spells at Forest. Name the player who also had 2 spells at Forest. One between 84 and 92. And then the second between 2002 and 2005.
Oh, Des Walker.
Yes!
I had to think there. You got me, yeah.
I named obviously him because he's such a vital part. Again, so, okay, you're doing well. 2 out of 3. Question 4. You were part of a joint transfer with Reidy to Spurs in 2005. Which players were part of a joint transfer this summer to Forest?
Oh, very good question.
Logical thinking.
Well, I'm thinking.
Are you thinking logically?
And that's a problem when I think. Oh, wow.
Who we played at the playoff final.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I wouldn't have got that.
Would you not?
Harry Toffolo, no. Lewis O'Brien. No, I wouldn't have got that.
O'Brien obviously now not being...
Yeah, no, I've just seen, No, I wouldn't have got that one.
Okay, this one. You played the first League Cup final at Wembley in 2008. Before that, when was the last League Cup final played at Wembley? So that had been the first.
Right, okay. Right, well, this is an idea now. I'm going back to the logic here.
Well, are you?
Well, if we'd have got to Wembley in 2005 here as a playoff final, that would have been at the Millennium. No. That could have been the first final back at Wembley, because I remember sitting in the dressing room crying with a towel over me when I got sent off in the semis. So 5-6. So 2002.
We should have a time limit next time, guys.
2000. Yeah, our time. 2002. You'll be able to cut it. Don't worry about this. You'll be when I get it right. It'll be like that. It's 2002-3. I'm going for. So when was the last final play? I'm going for 2003.
2000.
Oh, miles off it.
So, after that then, well done. You got 3 out of 5. But we have a chance for you to redeem yourself and get an extra bonus.
All right, okay.
So, what we do here, we've recorded a player saying a line. You have to name the player with slightly tweaked his voice. So, please name this player.
I've learnt from some fantastic experienced pros, for example, Michael Dawson.
Oh, Ryan Yates, easy. No, it's not.
He said that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
What a guy.
All right, 4. Are you happier?
Yeah, I'll take 4. Yates, you can win.
Do you want to write it on do you want to write yourself on the board? Here we go. There we go. What did he put? I don't know, I haven't seen it. Yates, are you watching this?
It's permanent. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Cheating.
No, it's not just
Well, while Dawes is deciding how to write number 4, remember, if you enjoyed this podcast, then subscribe on wherever you listen to all your podcasts, and then again, obviously on YouTube. Remember to turn the notifications on and subscribe so you don't miss an episode like this with Michael Dawson. Thanks, guys.
I told you education wasn't your best point. Yates, I had you worried for a minute, mate.
And with that, we'll say goodbye.
But it was only 4, I couldn't cheat.
Cut! Thanks, Dawes.